the session title could be also Drupal 8 theme system, but every time I've proposed a presentation with the Drupal 8 theme system title, no one understands what it's about, who should come to the presentation, because usually then I get the front-end developers only coming. So I've tried to get some title that gets people that mostly is interested about the topic. So my name is Lauri Eskola. I'm building the first website in the picture. I was quite young. I'm a front-end and a back-end developer and Drupal theme system maintainer right now. I'm working for a Finnish Drupal company called Twig. And I like kittens. I've added 43 of them to Drupal core and counting. I'm keeping going to add new kittens to Drupal core. I actually have a challenge with Wim Leers about how can we get more kittens in the Drupal core than we have llamas. But let's see. I also have promised that if Drupal 8 will get release candidate before DrupalCon Barcelona, I will donate $200 for llamas. I also like to break Bartik. That's the thing. I like to break Drupal core. I actually break Drupal core this Monday last time, and I broke Bartik a few months ago. From Drupal.org, you can find me with the username Lauri, and from Twitter with Lauri, but the last I is number 1. I'm going to cover in my presentation first the overall changes for the theme system. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the new templating engine we have in Drupal core called Twig. And then I'm going to talk about auto-escaping and why it's a problem for some people and how to get rid of the problems. And then I'm going to do also a brief live demo. Hopefully things will work. So Drupal 8 ships with the simplified theme layer. That's what we hope we've done. But let's see what we've done. So Drupal 7 theme layer looks like this. Everything is complicated. There is multiple ways of doing one thing, which makes things really hard. Like, even if you know how everything works in the theme system, it might take a while to figure out how something has been built, just because there is so many different ways of building it. And there's also a lot of dark magic. So what we started doing was just remove stuff from there that shouldn't be used or that shouldn't be needed for any cases. And one of them is the template process layer. It's completely gone from Drupal 8. There is no hooks being triggered on that level. So the process layer in Drupal 7 was used to just flatten the arrays into strings, basically rendering things before it being printed, which means that sometimes things are being rendered that doesn't need to be rendered, and also makes things unchangeable after that. Because when you have a string, it's very unformatted. You cannot change that anymore. Instead of, if you don't do the processing, you have the array, you can access everything, you can change whatever you want to be something else. It's nice. Also, the hook page alter is now removed from Drupal 8 because you shouldn't be using it even in Drupal 7. It's causing a lot of problems for people. It's going to break your caching, at least, if you don't have any other problems with that. Okay, so removing few simple things from this crazy triangle makes it a little bit better, but still we need to do things. Okay, so theme functions. Theme functions are bad. Like process layer, they are being rendering the array in the string immediately. Immediately when you run the theme function, it will convert your structured array into a string, which is this piece of HTML that is unchangeable after that. So theme functions shouldn't be used even in Drupal 7. But unfortunately, because of Drupal core is using theme functions, also the contrib modules are using theme functions because core is showing bad example for the contrib modules. Also, because of the contribs and core is using the theme functions, front-end developers has to use theme functions because they want to create the overrides for the theme functions. But in Drupal 8, we are converting them into Twig templates, so we have all the markup coming from the templates. And we actually have right now, instead of 154 theme functions that we have in Drupal 7, we we have 8 theme functions left, which is quite nice. So theme functions actually, as a concept, still exist in Drupal 8. You're able to create theme functions, but they are marked as highly deprecated, so you shouldn't be creating any new ones. The 8 theme functions we have left are all a little bit problematic. Like one of them was in a functionality that was completely broken. So we actually had a pull request or patch that we have in Drupal to fix that. But because of the functionality was completely broken, we were unable to test it, and then we couldn't make the change in the Drupal core. So all these 8 have been blocked by something. So Drupal core doesn't use theme functions anywhere where there is another solution. So now when we say goodbye for the theme functions in Drupal 8, how you should do it is with the render arrays. Render arrays, the good thing is that you have the render array as a structured piece of data still in the template level. So if you want to change something, it is possible. In Drupal 7, you are also able to define the render arrays, but the only difference is that people were not using them because they were using theme functions. Because all the contribution core were showing a bad example for them. So just a simple item list theme function becomes into this kind of render array. Very small change, just the details that has changed. Okay, so after removing the theme functions, things are getting a little bit better. So all these pieces have been removed, and how it looks in Drupal 8 is like this. This is a little bit more straightforward. We have like a line, like a pipeline that you can follow where it's going every time. Not, instead of a triangle that you have to go to look 3 different places. Okay, this might change this, and this might be this instead of this. Yeah, so it's a lot simpler. And this is what we have done. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what is left there and how you should use these different pieces. So the first thing, when the render array is being rendered, is there is a theme suggestions that are being triggered for the render array. So let's say if you call a theme node, you're able to define the specific theme suggestions for that theme suggestion. Like what Drupal core is providing is node __ article for the node types. That's a good example of a theme suggestion. There's 2 levels. So there's the hook theme suggestions, which is the one that should be used by the module providing the hook theme implementation. And then there is the hook theme suggestions alter, which you can use in your theme or in other modules just to alter the theme suggestions created there. In Drupal 7, we also had the theme suggestions, like I guess most of the people know, but they were defined in the preprocess functions, but it wasn't very nice because actually creating the theme suggestions sometimes it takes quite a few lines of code. So first there is like, let's say 50 rows of code for the theme suggestions, and then there is like 200 rows of code for the preprocess function itself, pre-processing and stuff. So it makes it easy, it makes it nice and clean to separate it from there. But not only that, now when we have it in a separated hook, it's easy that we provide specific preprocess functions, which means that we have a own preprocess function for each of the suggestions. I'm going to explain this a little bit later when I'm talking about the preprocess functions, but it's really nice because it creates new possibilities for us. There was also a plan of doing a little bit heavier refactoring on that place, but it didn't happen. So that's what we have right now in Drupal 8, and that's what we are going to ship with. So let's go to the preprocess functions, what I was already talking about quite a lot. So there is also 2 levels of preprocess functions. There is the hook template preprocess, and there is the hook theme preprocess. And many people get confused by the name template preprocess. So the idea in the first place was that a preprocess function that is only being run for the templates. But now in Drupal 8 we only have the templates. But there is still a reason why we have the template preprocess function, is that we want to have a single function that preprocesses all the variables for the template. So let's say if you need to create an initial configuration for the template, it can be created in the template preprocess. And there can be only one of these functions, because it's actually not it's hook, but it's not a hook, because there is not a prefix in that hook. So you can only define one template preprocess function. Actually, if the module is not defining the template preprocess function, you can create the template preprocess in another module or a theme. But that's something you shouldn't be doing ever, because it might break things really badly. So you should be using the hook theme preprocess where you can trust that the initial processing of the template has happened already. And here, about the specific preprocess functions, what this means is we have a preprocess function called hook preprocess node, which will be run before the specific one. So we can trust that if there is any preprocessing that needs to be done for all the nodes, it has happened already. And if you want to change that after that for a specific template, you can do it in a specific preprocess function. So if you want to change something only for the articles, yeah, you can do it there in the preprocess function. It's kind of like a function level if, which is really nice because it's fast and it makes it easy to separate the code in logical places. And in Drupal 8, there is multiple reasons why the specific preprocess functions are really nice, because we are using a lot of libraries. You might want to have some libraries only for a specific template. Let's say you want to have a JavaScript file only for the article pages. You can add it inside the article preprocess function. And you don't have to do any if-else logic anywhere. You can just add a preprocess function for each of the templates and add your attachments in there. I'm going to show in the demo how the attaching libraries happens in Drupal 8. I'm not going to explain it here. But the other thing that is really nice in the preprocess function is attributes. So in Drupal 8, we added a new object called attributes, which is like it's a value object containing a values of an HTML element attributes. So it is able to store all the different type of attributes that HTML element could have. Like you have a class, which is a special attribute because it's array. It is able to manage those. So you say add class, it will add a class for the class attribute, which is an array. You can remove an item from that array. You can also, so most of the attributes are either Boolean or just simple text, a string. They are being handled with the set attribute method. Yeah? Yeah, that's actually one of the things I should have fixed in my slides because I got the same feedback last time. So the attributes in this case is a variables attributes item. It's the attributes item of variables array because of in some projectors there is not enough space for the long name. So that's what we can assume. So you can call set attribute to set the attribute to a specific value. Let's say if you set ID, it assumes that it's a string. If you set data attributes, they can be strings, but there is also booleans. Let's say in the inputs, there is attributes like checked, or maybe there is something else, disabled, things like that, that are just boolean that there is no clear value. You can just say true or false. They work also with this. And how this works in the Twig, when you are printing the attributes object, you just take the attributes that has been defined to the variables, and you just print it inside the element like this. It will add the spaces, it will add everything by itself. And let's say if there is a multiple instances of the same class name, like someone adds a class named class and someone adds the same class, it won't add two classes named class. It will optimize them to be the minimum amount of classes possible. Also the same with the attributes, because the name of it being the attribute, set attribute, is that it overrides the previous value. So let's say if someone calls after that set attribute ID to something else, it will override the previous value of being set there. It won't add multiple ID attributes inside your element. You actually can remove attributes also and remove classes, but that's something that doesn't have to be done that often, I think. But yeah, just a friendly reminder that, that I've seen this thing quite a few times, that people add additional space before printing the attributes in a Twig. I don't know. Maybe I did that also when I was using the attributes object first time. But you don't have to do that, because it will you will end up having a ugly white space inside your markup if you add the white space over there. It can handle all those different scenarios by itself. It's clever. And the same methods are also available inside Twig. So the reason why this is so cool is that you can actually manipulate the attributes in all different levels. So you can manipulate them in the render array when the render array is being created. You can manipulate them in all the preprocess functions, and you can also manipulate them still in the template. You can call remove class, add class, whatever. I was already talking quite a lot of the Twig, so let's move for the Twig. This is just, I'm not explaining maybe how to use Twig, but what backend developers should know about Twig and the way Twig works. So the first thing I think backend developers should know is Twig magic. So Twig magic is something that the front-end developers probably never will understand, because they don't understand what is an array, they don't understand what is an object. They just see data and they are like, okay, I want to print that data. And that's all they care about. But because I hopefully have some backend developers, I can explain what the data in this case is. So when backend developers see sandwich.cheese, there might be a question, okay, what is sandwich, what is cheese? Yeah, it can be different things. So when someone writes this thing in a Twig and the Twig is being compiled, we test multiple different things, what it could be. So the first thing is we test if sandwich is an array and there is key, cheese. If that is true, if we can find a array, we can find out that sandwich is an array and cheese is key inside that array, we will print whatever is inside that array, and we won't do anything else. But if we find out that it's not an array, or there is not an key called cheese, we will move forward. We try to, okay, maybe this is an object, and maybe this is a property of the object. And if that is true, we will print the property of the object. Also, if that is not true, we will start going to the crazier things, like maybe, I don't know what is this. I just saw it in the logic. Maybe someone else knows. It just does something. So what we test after that is if it's object and there is a method called cheese. If there is method called cheese, we will run that method, and it will print whatever the function is returning. Also, we will try to use the get and is convention. So even if there is no cheese method, we will try if there is a get cheese method or is cheese method. And then we do some crazy PHP magic function calling, so if there is a dynamic cheese method. So this is quite useful because let's say the entities, they have getters. So if you want to get the title of an entity, you would have to run a method called getTitle. But you can only say, okay, entity.title, and it will automatically use the getTitle method, which is nice. Okay, let's move forward. In the Drupal 7, when there was render arrays, let's say in the page template, and you wanted to not print something, this is actually from the node template. So if you wanted to not print something, you had to use the hide function. But The problem with the hide function is that it actually changes the render array. It adds a new item in that render array to tell that, okay, the content comments don't print that. And when we run this for the links, it says, okay, don't print the links. And when we render the stuff, yeah, it will not print these two things. But the problem with this is that if someone wants to print that after this has been done, it's an unpredictable state because you might not know that someone has hidden stuff from the render array already. And let's say if you do it in one place, it's still the same in the other place, which is not nice. But in Drupal 8, we have the without filter, which is a Twig filter. I'm going to talk about more about Twig filters soon. So it's a filter to remove those render array items. So what is the difference? Is that the without filter simply returns the same stuff, same array, but without these two items. But it doesn't change anything in the original render array. So if someone is printing the content again, it's not in unpredictable state, because we know that everything that is in there is being printed. And if you want to print something that is specific, you just define again what you want to print. Let's say if you want to print comments, you just say content.comments. That's easy. And that's nice, because this thing has been causing quite nasty bugs in Drupal 7, even in Drupal 8, because of the hide function actually still exists in Drupal 8. You can use it, but it's for different things. Like if you want to persistently remove something from the render array, you want it to be there, but you don't want it to be printed at all. Then it's when you should use hide, not just if you once want to print something else, something that doesn't include those things. So I already started talking about the Twig filters, but the Twig filters are just a simple, yeah? Yeah. So it's a render array. It has a theme that is being defined in this case because it's a node. It has a theme node, so it has a template where all that is coming from. Yeah. So in the Drupal 7, it's probably the best solution to do this, because otherwise you would have to create a new variable of the render array and then unset some values from that. So it's not very, very nice. But in the Drupal 8, using the hide, like let's say if you want to just remove something out of the render array, that it won't be ever printed anywhere. Then you want to use the hide. I don't have any specific use case because I don't have anything in my mind. Like in the Drupal 8, I've seen the few use cases where it's being used, and those are like very weird use cases. I don't get why it's used there. I guess there's no real reason. It's mostly being used when because this is in the PHP. So in the preprocess function or theme function, we are generating markup. And then we want to change the logic in there. There you might want to use the hide function if you have some complex stuff. I don't know, honestly. I would be +1 to remove the hide function, hide and show. But yeah, there they are. So I'm going to move forward for the Twig filters. So these are just simple functions so these are being mapped in the PHP. They are calling just a function that is taking something inside there and returning it in different format. So just an example, a length filter is just taking the name as a parameter for the function and returning the length of the variable. So these are being used just to, when you're printing something and you want to modify the variable for that specific time when you are printing it. So let's say if you want to get a comment count or something, you can just use the length for the comment render array and see the results inside there. There's also Twig functions, which are also functions in PHP, but these are meant to not only for returning content or manipulating content. This is like if you want to create a new variable and you need to do things like that. This is for that. So let's say also one good example is the dump, which is just water dump in PHP, but it couldn't be done with the filter. What the dump does, if you don't specify any parameters for the dump function in Twig, it prints all the variables from the Twig template. So you can see everything that is inside there. The only problem is right now that in the Drupal templates, there is a lot of stuff happening, so you will not have enough memory most of the time. So I've tried it with the 2 gigabytes of memory in the node template, and it doesn't work. So it's a little bit of a problem. But yeah, these are all in Twig. So if you use Twig with some other system, you will have this in there, no problem. But sometimes, you know, the front-end developers, they need something more than that is inside Twig. So I'm going to show you how you can add a filter and a function into a Twig. Because if you just call a function that is in PHP in a Twig, nothing won't happen. That is the reason why we use Twig, to make it safe, to make front-end developers not use PHP functions that they shouldn't be using. So how it works. It's quite simple after all, but there's a lot of conceptual things from the Drupal 8 that is required to be understood to actually understand what happens in here. But I'm going to show you, so you can just copy-paste what I'm showing to you, so you don't actually have to understand what's happening. So it's a little bit easier. So the first step is to create a class, which is extending Twig extension class. In here, you have to provide one method, get filters or get functions. I want to provide filter, so I provide get filters method. What I do here is I return an array of the filters I want to add in this extension. I have one filter that I'm adding. It's called trim string, which is called trim string also in the Twig template. The first parameter of the that the Twig simple filter takes for the constructor is the name of the filter that is being called inside the Twig. And the second one is the mapping. Where is this function being mapped? So I'm defining an array because I want it to be calling a method from a class. So in the array, in the first item, I have to define the class it's calling. So I'm giving it just this because I want it to be calling a method from this class. And the second one is the method name of I want it to be calling. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Yes? So here you can see the method that it's calling. It's very simple. So as the first parameter, it takes the string, which is the thing that is before the bar sign, the block. And then the second parameter is additional parameter, so the users can define the length of the string. The length of the string they want it to be filtered. So this is the max length of the string. So in here, I can build whatever logic I want to do for the string. I'm just doing a simple str pos to change the length. Second thing, because if you just define a class, nothing will happen. We need someone to come pick up our class. So we will inject our class with the services container by tagging it with the tag name Twig extension. And then the Twig will come pick up your extension. Here I tell the class where it can be found, and here is the unique ID of this service. And it's in the services.yaml inside the module. And the third step after this is profit. It's already working. Nothing else needs to be done. So this is how I can use the trim string I define. I just use the bar trim underscore string, and I am providing also the additional parameter, which is 2. So it will only show 2 first characters of the variable. Okay, the same applies for the functions. You can just say get functions. Everything is the same. Nothing is different compared to the filter. And then it creates a function that can be called. If you want to find the code that I was using, there is a fully functional module that you can just install to your Drupal 8. I'm not responsible if your Drupal site breaks because of that module, but you can try if you want. So it's a good way to start if you want to build your own filter. Okay, let's move. So sometimes people are like, okay, I don't want to learn anything new because there is a lot of things we have to keep up. And Twig is one of them. It's one of the new concepts. And yeah, you just have to learn. And some people don't want. Some people say they don't like Twig. They want to use some other templating engine. We do have a solution for people. We have a PHP template still in Drupal 8 core. So if you want to use the PHP template, just uncomment this line in the info.yaml file inside the theme, and you will have your PHP templates loaded. You can do SQL queries, you can define classes inside the node template, whatever. I don't care. You can do it. But I don't know if this is working. I don't care. Okay, let's move to the auto-escaping. Auto-escaping is one of the new concepts in Drupal 8. The reason why we can do auto-escaping in Drupal 8 is that because all the markup has been moved from the PHP code to the Twig templates. So whatever is inside the PHP code will be escaped automatically. So, and also the MySQL database. So let's say if you try to output markup from your PHP code, you will have a problem because we don't want to show your markup that is being defined from the PHP. You should put your markup in the template so that the front-end developers can edit it easily. And we auto-escape all the things. So whatever you try to put there, you create your own variables, whatever, it will be auto-escaped. Adding new variables that with the crazy names don't help. We will find them, and we will auto-escape them. So the reason why we could do this is markup should live inside a Twig template, not in PHP. You don't want to have the front-end developers writing PHP. What is the result? It's maybe spaghetti or lasagna code. That's not nice. So they are writing the Twig template. They can mess around in their sandbox, not in there. But what is auto-escaping actually? So I'm going to print this Drupal render thing, markup, script alert, blah, blah, blah. So what I see in the browser is script alert XSS script. You don't see the pop-up that you might be expecting. The reason is we escape every character that might cause problems before we print it. So this doesn't actually cause any problems for the users because they just see whatever you wanted them to see. So we assume if you are outputting a script alert, blah, 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 that your user sees the script alert, blah, blah, blah. And that makes sense, yeah? I'm going to, just a second. So this will print as like this. There is exceptions because I'm using the markup. Markup is a special case. So you can define, there is certain allowed tags for the markup. that we know certainly are safe. Like let's say if you define a div, we know you can't run script inside a div. So you can define a div inside there, but only in markup. If you use whatever else, it won't be printed. But you can also say allow tags, and you can say, okay, this should be safe, because there is unlimited amount of HTML elements, because V3C can define a new HTML element tomorrow. And we cannot update Drupal for that, so we have to allow tags, so people can add whatever tags they want to use. But this is not a safe way, because let's say if there would be a variable, we would be presuming that everything that is inside the markup is escaped already. So the auto-escaping doesn't work if you use the markup. It's only for this kind of a use case, where you output something that is very static. Nothing coming from the user input database, wherever there might be something that is harmful. But I want to output the sum markup from the database. I would do it, okay, I only want to add one EM element. So I might not want to add a template for that. So we have an inline template for that. So you can actually virtually create a template here. So you just use a type element, inline template. You define what is inside the template. You can use the Twig, whatever is inside Twig, inside here. It's a template. And then in the context, you define all the variables. And the variables that are in there are being auto-escaped. So I have the possible unsafe variable here. When I output it like this, it will be escaped. And if some nasty hacker would have put it some XSS into the possible unsafe variable, no problem, it's escaped automatically, and you don't have to care about anything. So these are edge cases. Most of the time, you don't have to care about this, because you just output something in other variables, or variables that are being printed in the template, then everything is working automatically, and you don't output markup from there, so you don't get any problems. I'm going to give you a sandwiches demo, where I can also demo this stuff a little bit more. So, because I'm presuming that most of the people don't understand what I'm talking about, because even I don't understand. So let's get out of the thing. So I have a sandwich menu page, which is like this. We have two sandwiches here. This is one sandwich. This is another sandwich, Chicado and Yummy. I'm gonna go edit this thing. So the first thing I need to define is the theme function, the hook theme implementation for the sandwich, which I do in the hook theme. So gonna take that out. So here, in the hook theme implementation, I have to define the variables that are possible to be inside the template that the render array can define. Also the default values. So let's say if the render array doesn't define the wedges are empty, then it will just output an empty array in there. That is not as important in the Twig, because in Twig, if there is a problem, there is no, let's say if a variable doesn't exist in Twig. In Drupal, we don't throw any error for that. But in PHP, yeah, you know, you get stupid stuff happening. So that's remaining from the PHP, but it's still nice because you can see all the things that are going to the template. Now I'm going to show you how I'm defining the render array. So I have here my best sandwich, where I have the name, attributes, bread, cheese, veggies, protein. As you can see, those are matching the types that are here. So let's say the condiments, they are array, so it's here also an array. I have another, the alternative best sandwich. And then what I'm returning here is a type container which only prints all the children elements of the children render arrays of of this element. So I have them here as in children for this render array. I'm also attaching a library. That was the thing I was talking about. I'm going to explain that. I also defined the attributes for the container. So I'm going to first explain the problem. So with the safe markup, I'm going to try to put some markup for the okay, so I'm going to use the PHP storm. Screen size is so small. Okay, so I'm going to clear the cache because I have the page caching enabled, so it doesn't do the change without. You can see the markup coming to the thing, to the browser. That's what we are expecting. So if someone's name is larger than Li, smaller than Chicago, and larger than blah blah blah, we expect that sandwich's name, and that's what the user wants to print. We don't expect it to be HTML. So I'm gonna remove that. That's just what you see if you put your markup inside the PHP code. It doesn't work. So what happens after I'm printing this render array? I'm going to show the whole pipeline. So the first thing that happens after this is the hook theme suggestions is being run. So here I'm creating a new hook theme suggestion for my sandwiches, which is sandwich underscore underscore the sandwich's name. So I should have two theme suggestions, one for the Chicago and one for the yummy. I'm going to clear the cache. It would be interesting to have a template with the li element inside the name of the. I think I have some crap here. Yeah. What did you? Ah, trust. Oh, that is a problem. Thank you. Okay, now it's working. So I'm going to keep going. So after defining the theme suggestions, we have the alter. If you want to change it to be something completely different, you can change it here. You get them in the suggestions variable parameter, which is in reference, so you can change them to be whatever else. But, okay, the first thing that is being run for the template in the pre-processing, where the variables should be changed, is the template pre-process sandwich. There, I'm gonna change the name for each of the sandwiches to be kitten, because kittens are quite awesome. So let's see. Now I should have 2 kitten sandwiches. Okay, it's working. After that, another module says, okay, kittens are not cool. Let's add llamas. And then, now we should have llamas because the sandwich pre-process sandwich will be run after the template pre-process. Let's see if that is, yeah, now we have 2 llama sandwiches. Okay, but this is the cool thing. I have a specific pre-process function for the Chicago. I'm gonna change this Chicago sandwich to be, what is the cool animal? Flamingos? They are weird, they have long legs. So I'm gonna change the Chicago sandwich, which should be now flamingo. So if everything is working correctly in the theme system, this is a good way to test. I should have now 1 flamingo and 1 llama. Yeah, I have 1 flamingo and 1 llama. Okay, so why this works is because this is being run before the pre-process function. So this is the one that is coming from the render array. So we are changing it to be kitten after that. So it doesn't modify the theme suggestion. And this doesn't have any effect because these are being override. Or the kitten doesn't have any effect because it's being overridden by the hook preprocess function. And then we have the specific preprocess function for the Shikado, which is still being triggered because it's being generated before we manipulated them. So that is the preprocessing pipeline in a nutshell. I'm going to show a few other cool things just for the fun, because I promised. So, okay, I have a library called sandwich/flavor, which adds a little bit of a flavor for the page. The libraries are being defined in the libraries.yaml file. And here I tell, okay, load this column font and add a flavor.css. So I'm adding it for the this render array of this container of 2 sandwiches. So whenever this container is being printed, we should have those 2 things being loaded for the browser. But, okay, so as you can see, we have the fonts, we have the styles. One thing that has changed is the user logging title. So it has a weird font, not the default one from the Bartik. Okay, let's go to the front page. Because of none of the styles or the fonts should be loaded on the front page, because I'm only loading them when this container is being printed. So on the front page, as you can see, those CSS files and fonts are not being loaded, because the library is only being attached for the specific container. So why would you load CSS that is not needed on the front page? That's why we have the dependencies for the libraries in the render arrays. I think I still have a few minutes for the questions, so we should move there. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you a lot. And I have a question about the after escape. So if we have 2 sandwiches, as you showed us, and we want just one sandwich, in the name add some tags, HTML tags, what we need to do? We need to create a copy of the Twig template and just change a few tags in there, or any other solutions?
Yeah, so you should override the template. I can show how to do it. Do you want me to show you how to override the template? Or I can show it.
No. So in the end we have 2 different templates.
Yeah.
And with the minimum difference, only 2 tags. Is it okay? Is it normal solution? Or
to override the template?
Yes, to override template, but the difference is really small.
Yes. So in the Twig, there is also extends. So you can extend templates and change only one thing. I can, if my Wi-Fi is working, I can explain this. Twig extends. Okay, so it's you can define a block inside Twig like this. Okay, I have a block head in here. You can extend it. This is a page base HTML Twig file. I can extend it, and then I can define a overriding block for that thing. So you could define a block for one small thing in the parent template, and then override the one thing in a specific template override.
Okay, thank you. That's an awesome question.
Okay.
Answer.
Any other questions?
A little bit about finding information. I remember when I tried Twig, I didn't find. I found from a Twig's website and about some filters and functions, but they didn't work. Is there much Drupal specific filters and functions and kind of that stuff?
So there is a few filters that has been created by Drupal. I can. There is a documentation page for this, but there is also a single file, Twig extension. So here we are defining all the different filters and functions for Drupal Twig. So here is all the filters that we have for Drupal Twig. But there is also documentation, so you don't have to know how to find the code.
Yeah, this helps. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah?
Okay, one more question about another example about trim, about trim filter.
Yeah.
You applied it to string, but if in Twig we can have an array. So if we apply this filter to an array, what will happen?
So my example array, example filter I created won't work with the arrays because it uses the str pos. But you can, in the method that it's being mapped into, you can create whatever logic you want. So it can be an array. Like the other example I was giving, the without filter, it's being used for an array, and it returns another array back from the method. So the example I was given, it doesn't work with arrays, but most of the filters do work. Like the length, it either returns the length of an array or the length of a string, depending on what is being given for the filter. Yes, I guess it's in the documentation what it should be given. But in the Twig, there is no, like, PHP storm doesn't give you the answer what should be given for the, it doesn't show you the doc block of the method. So it will throw an error because it goes to PHP. So the PHP logic will fail, and you will get an error for it. Yeah, don't do that. Most of the Twig filters that we have from the Twig and from the Drupal are like very simple, and they have quite a lot of logic just because we want them to support all the different possible use cases. Any other questions? I think we have time for one more. Yeah.
So I'm just curious. I know Smarty. I don't anything about Twig. There used to be a feature that's now, I guess, deprecated, that you had a possibility to do PHP code in your template, like PHP blocks. So is it in Twig, or is it possible to do it? I know it's bad, but like...
It's in Twig.
It's there, okay?
Yes.
But it's not like you don't...
No.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I think we are out of time, so thank you for